Hello and welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old and new England games and ask just how England was this. Group winners.
You may be a stranger, that's what time can do. Baby, you mean everything to me. Darling, there's no danger with all that we've been through.
Well, hello listeners. It's just me for today. Co-host Nick is taking a well-deserved break at Glastonbury, enjoying all the sights and sounds there, particularly the sounds, but also the sights, probably the food and the facilities as well. But yeah, we will press on because that's what England have to do. There's obviously a tournament for us to talk about because we're still in it. We're top of the group. We're group winners, and we're into the knockout stage. Big game coming up on Sunday, so we're looking to do something a little bit different this time, and we're bringing in the help of our lovely listeners. The Is This England cinematic universe. Yeah, I think that's a nice term for it. So yeah, it won't just be me talking for the next however long. Some of our listeners have very kindly stepped up and given us their thoughts on England's performance at Euro 2024 so far and what comes next. But for what it's worth, and in the spirit of the show, I will of course give my take, the important take. I can say that when Nick's not here. Hold that thought, however, because news just coming in from the wire is that Nick has taken the time out of his busy schedule, having fun and drinking pints and watching Peruvian dance artists, from what I'm hearing, to give us a update on his thoughts. So coming live from Glastonbury, not live, but live-ish, live enough. Here's Nick.
Good morning from the beautiful Glastonbury Festival. It's Friday morning. It's been interesting. It's been tiring. It's been lobsterlicious. But I thought we've got to still try and help out George with the podcast while we're here. That dedication. England could learn from that. Group stage thoughts. I thought it was an awful way to start my preparation for Glastonbury. That terrible game against Slovenia, and we've been rewarded the game against Slovakia. So all of our years confusing the Slavs have really come and paid off now, which is great. But yeah, really poor in the group, disappointing in every way almost apart from getting through. England have kind of accidentally got the whole nation hating them, even though they've got through the top of the group and all that. So classic England. That really is England, as we've said on the pod. Obviously, from the non-England people, it's been absolute outrage at the at England fixing the draw and getting not the big names. The big names are on the other side. Don't look at the other side. It's fine. Um, it's just either send us back after playing a good game, or get us. Let's just get through this somehow. And I think that's with this side of the draw we're on. I think Slovakia again, England. You'd hope they can do all right. And then, there's that idea of Netherlands. I just don't. England playing the Netherlands, it just doesn't happen really in major tournaments. And the last one was 96, if I'm right. And they went through a spell, as most teams do with England, while England just have to play them. So it's I think it was in 1990. Yeah, and there were other turgid games as well. And the Netherlands haven't looked great. I watched them against Austria, and they looked poor. Austria were just ripping them apart with old Specs, actually proving he's a pretty decent manager. So, well done to him. I think it's just the hope now that that's the side of the draw England are on, so they can maybe accidentally stink their way to the final and maybe even win that, which would be hilarious. And everyone would hate it as well. The most hated team to win something ever. Little interlude. We just went into the co-op. Lovely little experience. I've come out and there's a massive queue now. Absolutely smashed that. Anyway, what were we saying? England starting lineup. Mainoo's got to start. He was great when he came on without being spectacular, but that's literally what he is there for. I'd like to see Gordon and Palmer both play. Saka's been disappointing. Foden obviously is gone home for, I think he's having a child. That's what I've heard anyway. Yeah, I think that they're the three I'd made from the starting lineup. Gallagher just did not work and was never going to work. And it was horribly frustrating watching him. Most likely, it'll just be Mainoo. What needs to happen in that Slovakia game, and then obviously just need to win. Please just do it convincingly. Probably just going to be 1-0 again. But I just need to step up and get our arse in gear, really. I know it's not bloody hell, giving us football the wages and all that. They are better than all the teams they've played. They've just about gotten away with it in the most comedy way and hateful way possible. But they've got to perform. I want individual performances, team performances, better tempo. In parts, they looked all right against Slovenia, but can we go far? The draw has seemingly meant that we can, but in reality, that Netherlands game worries me. And then the Austria game as well. Yeah, Austria team of the tournament, really, apart from Spain. So, yeah, let's cross our fingers for that.
So there you have it. Not the best sound quality, but we will forgive him as he's at Glastonbury, and it sounds like he's in the middle of a hurricane. As you'd expect from Nick, pretty measured. Kobe Mainu as well, getting a big shout out there. And yeah, I like the use of the term lobsterlicious to describe his Glastonbury so far. I'll have to check in as to what that actually means upon his return. Let's talk about the Slovenia game then. 0-0. But am I wrong for thinking it might have been the best performance from England of the group stage? Just to clear up, it wasn't good. There's no way it can be masked as being good, but neither were the other two games, and I feel like we were pretty tight at the back and showed maybe a little bit more going forward. The ball was actually in the net at one point for offside. I mean, it was offside. You can't argue with that. But yeah, there were a couple of little moments where it just didn't quite come off for us. And maybe on another day we would have got 1 or 2 goals and it would have all been a lot more comfortable. But obviously the mood around the nation is disgustingly bad. Everyone's fuming. But usually with these things, I think the tournament intensity is such a what's the word? Such a unique sort of factor, because obviously we're all used to following our clubs week in, week out, and the amount of times your club loses and you go, I just need a break from it, and that was terrible, and I cannot possibly get excited about the next game. And then Saturday comes around, or if you're in like a Champions League or a Europa League or what have you, Wednesday comes around, you're like, right, let's watch it, and I'm sure we can win this one. I think it's the same with England in tournaments. Except it's just that discourse that everyone's getting involved in talking about it. Me included, obviously, actually recording myself talking about it. Yeah, everyone's getting involved in it, and it just heightens everything up. And obviously, the tournaments are only every 2 years if you're lucky and qualify for them. So yeah, I think by the time Sunday comes around, everyone's going to be feeling a little bit more optimistic because we've got the knockout stage ahead of us and we were group winners. But back to the Slovenian game, I thought Phil Foden was probably our best player. I think he really does look desperate to not let this tournament pass him by. He seems to want to do. I know there's always a danger of a player wanting to do everything. I don't think he's quite like that, but he seems adamant when he gets the ball, something is going to happen. And so far, to be honest, it hasn't. But I'm going to say a bad bunch, I think he's looking maybe the guy. But on the other hand, he's had to go home because his partner's had their third child, I believe, contrary to what popular memes might tell you. Worst player on the pitch against Slovenia for me was Bellingham. And I hate to say it. I obviously hate to say it, and it might be seen as a bit of an exaggeration or what have you, but I was adamant he should have been taken off at half time, and he just looked I gotta say, it just looked disgraceful. I don't know what was going on. I was baffled by his performance. Obviously, I'm also very excited, and I've said a million times. I honestly feel like he's the best English. Like he's so ready to become the best English player of all time, and he just needs to. He doesn't even need to improve that much. He just needs to keep the consistency up, which is the challenge for a younger player. But I will say now, while it's just me and you, listener, if Bellingham isn't the absolute real deal, and he just kind of slides into mediocrity after a good start to his career, I vow I will never hype a player up for England again. Never. Speaking of which, isn't Kobe Mainu great? Eh? I thought he looked really good when he came on. Well, in the context of the game, he looked good. And to me, he did show exactly why he should be in the 11. Obviously, he replaced Conor Gallagher, who kind of showed exactly why he shouldn't be in the 11. I think the balance that Mainu offered and his kind of positive attitude to playing football have been sorely missed for England. And to be honest, he is capable of showing up senior players. He's been doing that a lot for Manchester United this season. I kind of think he has played himself into the 11 now. If Gareth Southgate wants to move things around and fit Mainu in, I think he should, and I think he can, and I think he will. I also think Cole Palmer looked good. Probably should get a shot from the start instead of Saka against Slovakia. I'm a huge Saka fan. I think at the start of the tournament, I was saying people need to maybe just not calm down on Palmer because he's great, but don't just drop Saka because Palmer's the new thing in town. Saka has done what Palmer's done for Chelsea this year, few seasons in a row for Arsenal and England, but he's not looking 100% on it. And I think Palmer, the flicks and tricks he brought, the positivity that he brought. I think I said on a previous episode that he was almost. I thought Gareth's tactic might be just to get Palmer as hungry as possible and as ready to go, almost like waiting, to let him off the leash. And I think it did look a little bit like that. He was probably, one of our better players when he came on. And yeah, I'm a huge Saka fan. I definitely think he deserved to start the tournament, but this kind of change is exactly what tournament football is about. You've got to, I don't know, strike while the iron is hot, so to speak. Cole Palmer is ready to start a game for England. That's fine, and Saka could always come on if we need him to. Yeah, at the back, anyway, let's talk about the defence. I'll be honest, I think we look leggy across the board. I think Gahey's looking like, could probably do with a break, but he's definitely not going to get one. John Stones, I think, hasn't looked on it since the first game. Not going to get a break. Kyle Walker looking a little bit rusty. That's mad to say. I mean, he's still quicker than me, don't get me wrong, but perhaps looking a little bit rusty. And Trippier the same. But there probably isn't going to be any change at the back, to be honest. I can't see one. Unless Luke Shaw's made a miraculous recovery, and in which case that's still quite a scary thing to think about. But, we shall see. Right back to kind of the top end of the pitch, there is an issue with Kane that may need to be addressed, but I would stick with him. I think he's done enough to prove that he deserves, to be stuck with. He is England's leading scorer of all time for a reason. He's our captain for a reason, and we do have great replacements needed if they are needed. But I don't know. I just let Kane ride it out, man. If this ends up being his last tournament for England, he deserves to not be dropped for a round of 16 game. That's just my opinion, and that probably is a bit too sentimental towards Kane there. Ollie Watkins would be my choice for replacement if Gareth decided, and it would be a huge call if he dropped Harry Kane. I don't see it. But honestly, looking at our games and our performances, in a scenario where you could just test something out, I would love to see Watkins in a big game as well. Not a dead rubber like what this Slovenia game could have been. In a proper game, this could be the one, but I don't see it. Anyway, Slovakia is next. Slovakia finished third in Group E, behind Romania and behind Belgium, but ahead of Ukraine, despite all four teams finishing on 4 points. So that's maybe a bit of a stroke of luck for England. We could have played Belgium instead. I mean, the big story, not the big story, I guess, but it seemed so certain that we would be playing Netherlands at one point until Georgia beat Portugal. So that's just, it's a good thing that we're playing Slovakia. Well, we can come on to why it might be a bad thing, but on the face of it, instead of playing seventh placed Netherlands according to the FIFA rankings, instead of playing the seventh place team, we're playing 45th, and you can't really see that as a bad thing. I know a lot of people are saying Southgate has been so lucky that the tournaments have opened up for him like this, but this is what happens if you consistently win your groups, which is what England have done this time without really breaking a sweat. There was never any doubt really, despite the bad performances. Um, yeah, I did find some positives to talk about in regards to the Slovenia game, but in reality, the group stage has been dire, and that's kind of leading me on to my thought that maybe this Slovakia game has a bit of Iceland knocking around it vibes. Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. Um. Yeah. If we pull out another performance like that, well, it is an issue. It is an issue that they being Slovakia may just play the same as all the other opponents we've played so far and just sit back. At least the Netherlands game would have been a game of football, where a bit of back and forth play against an attacking team, and we hopefully could have seen something different for England. I mean, this is probably wrong, and I know that I'm dangerously committed to Southgate. He's the one. He turns me on. All of that stuff. But all I hope is that the plan from him was win the group stage, lads, with as little effort exerted as possible. Um, if that was the plan, I'm hoping that it was mission achieved. But as I say, some players do look leggy out there. The heat's been quite severe as well, hasn't it? So, yeah, the Slovakia game is just a scary one. If we dare to think beyond, hang on, I can't just say that. I can't just say Slovakia is a scary one. It's a great draw for your round of 16 game, but it scares me a little bit. If we dare to kind of think beyond that, we're going to play the winner of Italy versus Switzerland in the quarterfinal. So a potential Euro 2020 played in 2021. Final replay there against Italy. Who wouldn't bet on it being Switzerland versus Slovakia the way this bloody sport is? Yeah. Wider than that, the draw has opened up for us quite a bit. Germany, Spain, Portugal, and France are all on the other side, meaning that we won't play any of them until the final, if we get there, that is, of course. But anyway, with the knockout stages beckoning, let's take the pulse of the Is This England nation. So we've asked a few listeners 6 questions, which are: do you see any positives from the group stage? If not, what's gone wrong? Has looking at the breakdown of the knockout stages changed your mood on how far we can go? What would your starting 11 be against Slovakia? What needs to happen against Slovakia to convince you that we can go far? If we do go far, who is going to be the key player? And outside of England, who would your money be on to win the tournament, and why? So let's hear from our first listener. This is Matty. Matty, I'm listening.
I think the only positives you can take from the group stages really is the fact that we won them and we got 2 clean sheets. But apart from that, not much really. I'm definitely feeling better about the knockout stages after seeing the fixtures. But I've just got this feeling of dread about the potential of facing Italy because I feel like that's where it's all going to come unravelled and there'll be tears. I'd probably keep the defence the same for the Slovakia game. Midfield, oh God, you'd probably have to say drop Jude back in with Royce, let Foden have his middle spot, Gordon and Palmer on the wings, and Kane up front, to be fair, but not be too scared to take him off for Watkins if we need to. What needs to happen against Slovakia to convince us that we can go far? Goals, simple man. Banging 4 goals, jobs are good and bish bash bosh. I think Palmer could be the man to shake things up for us, maybe, but maybe it could end up being some of the players that were there all along, but just moved around into the appropriate sort of positions. You never know, maybe it might unlock them a bit further. Well, I suppose if it's not coming home, I guess Germany might take you. I suppose just being the host nation and Yeah, they just seem like a good crop of young, decent players coming through, man. It's what we should be looking like, really.
Thanks for that, Matty. Yeah, I think you're probably right about the what we need to see from the Slovakia game. You know, it's all right, kind of me and Nick coming on here and pontificating and asking for calm and trying to be quite reasonable. Um, but performances have been bad, and it's all right trusting the process and not letting things get blown out of proportion. You know, if we win in tight circumstances, but we do need goals. I just think the whole team looks desperate for the relief that a goal can bring, and obviously, if you get one, you just hope that we can really turn it on and go right. I honestly feel like you might just see it. You know, if we score against Slovakia, that and it's a relatively early goal, like the player's shoulders kind of just drop, like a weight has been lifted. That's what I'm hoping for. And yeah, thank you very much, Matt. Next caller, let's hear from Karma.
I think in terms of the group stage so far, the performances haven't been great, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt. We're top of the group, we're undefeated. I think we've only conceded one goal, so yeah, we're through. We look like we're going to play Austria, and yeah, I fancy us against them. Um, I'm not getting too ahead of myself. I don't think we should look too far down the road who can get in the final. I think we just need to take each game as they come. I'm pretty sure Southgate, when the players will do the same. My starting 11 for Slovakia game would be, I think the Gallagher experiment didn't play too well. I think Southgate understood that by playing Manu at half time, and we looked so much better. So I think for me, Manu has to start. And yeah, I think I'd like to see Anthony Gordon get a few more minutes. Other than that, I wouldn't touch the defence. I think that's the one good positive we can take. We haven't been tested, obviously, but I don't remember Jordan Pickford having to make a save that I expect him not to. I think for the Slovakia game, I don't mind if we just have a bad performance, but as long as we get the result, it's tournament football. It's not a league where you have to be entertained the whole time. We're here to win it. And we've seen teams in the past that have gone on all the way to the final by playing ugly football. I think the positive is that we could be hard to beat. Um, in terms of a key player, I like to think the bench will play its part. Cole Palmer, when he came on against the Slovenia game, was unreal. I was at the game and he got everyone on their feet. The crowd just took to him, and I think he thrives on that. So yeah, for me, I think he needs to um, do something to show that he's part of the setup. And I think outside of England, none of the big teams actually look that great. France, Germany, Italy, Portugal. I mean, they've all dropped points or looked slightly less than what we thought they were going to be. I mean, who would have thought Austria would be the team to beat right now? So yeah, outside of any fact to put my money on someone else winning it, maybe Spain. Yeah, but you can't really call it at the moment. Yeah. Other than that, I think England have done enough, and hopefully we can just go into the tournament and win it. So yeah.
Thank you for that, Karma. Really interesting to hear that you went to the Slovenia game. I'm tempted to just say sorry about that because obviously it's a lot of travel for a 0-0 draw. But I think you mentioned you had quite a nice time out there. One point in particular I'll pick out is the key player being basically, I think you mentioned the bench, which is, and obviously you focus specifically on Palmer, but the bench is huge, and it's kind of a question of how are we using it. I'll be honest and say I haven't really. Well, I've actually enjoyed the subs that he's made. I enjoyed seeing Jared Bowen get a bit of game time. I enjoyed seeing the front three replaced in the Denmark game. I enjoyed Palmer and Mainu coming on against Slovenia, but the impact hasn't really been there. And I think at the start of the tournament, me and Nick were talking about, what's one of the best things that could kind of happen to give you real confidence in the tournament. And I think one of us said a bench player having a moment because it just raises the level of everyone in the team. Whether that could be Ollie Watkins this game, whether it's Cole Palmer, not necessarily being from the bench in this game, but a bench player who perhaps will be starting Yeah, I think it would be great to see. So thank you very much for sending that over. Do appreciate it. Up next, we have friend of the show, Adam Power, on the line. Greetings, traveller.
Hi, Nick and George. Um, I'll answer your 6 questions now. I've written them down, otherwise I'd forget what the questions were. But the first one, so the positives, that we finished top of our group. We only conceded 1 goal. We didn't lose a game. No new injuries. Still think we've got plenty left in the tank. I think Mark Gray has done very well coming in for Harry Maguire. And finally, on paper, we've got a good draw in the next round. Of course, it's played on grass, not paper. Anyway, question 2 about having a look at the draw and has it altered my mind about how far we can go? No, it's just only one match at a time. Part of the problem has been the talk of winning it and the high expectations. We have not won anything for 58 years. That is by pressure in itself, big pressure in itself. And my lineup would be Pickford in goal, Walker, Gay, Stones, Trippier, Manu Rice, Gordon on the left, Palmer on the right, and Bellingham behind Kane. Question 4, I hope we play with more energy and tempo, create more chances, play aggressively and be brave, press high up the pitch. Key player, Jude Bellingham, and Spain and Germany were my two. Germany as a host nation had the momentum like they did in 2006 when they got to the semis. And I just think Spain looked the best side in the group stages for me, played with speed and urgency, and I think both sides created the most chances. There you go. I kept that quite brief because I'm doing it in a toilet cubicle, so I don't want anyone to come in. But there you go. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Adam. I won't ask what you're doing in the toilet cubicle, but I'm sure there's a very innocent explanation for it. Some good points there, obviously. I thought you were quite experimental with the side there, so bringing in Gordon and Mainu. But obviously, you stuck with the back line and made some kind of positive points there, particularly about Mark Gay, who has done really well, it has to be said. Right, let's move on. Who have we got next? It's my little brother. My little brother. It's Tom. Tom, what have you got to say?
Positives from the group stage, I think on the eye, there's not many, but I think the defence, I think any tournament team, tournament international football, a good defence can take you a long way. And I think despite having some worries about the defence before the tournament, I think the defence have consistently been really good across the group stage matches. I think my mood towards the knockout stages has changed, but that is just the optimistic England fan. We should be beating all the teams on that side. On paper, we are better than all of the teams on that side of the draw. So it should be the positive, but we all know how that can go and regularly does. Starting 11, I would go for obviously Pickford in goal. I'd keep the back four the same. I love Bellingham, obviously, I think he's an amazing player, but I would try him next to Rice in the midfield. I think them two together could be formidable. They could just win the midfield battle against most teams. And then just play to Foden, who would play just in front of them as a free, just between the lines, clever play, receiving the ball between the lines. I'd have Gordon on the left, fresh, kind of fearless, just to try and get at them. On the right hand side, obviously Saka, Kane through the middle. I do think that they will play really low block defensive, but I think the Trippier Foden on the left just doesn't work. It's not looked like it's worked in the first 3 games. I think something different just has to happen. I think what needs to happen in the Slovakia game, I don't think it needs to be a 4 or 5 0 battering. I think that is a big ask in international football tournament knockouts, major tournaments. I think it would just be brilliant just to see a confident performance, puff the chest out, a bit of dominance over the other team, asserting that confidence over them, even if that's not a massive result. Just having good patterns of play, having some confidence, and managing the game well, and looking a bit more comfortable, like we belong on the stage that we're on. If we do go far, I think it's going to be somebody in the defence. As I said, I think that the defence is the most important because major tournament football, you can play absolutely rubbish and you can get to a final just on a couple of moments. I think I would say out of the centre back pairing, I think John Stones, he is kind of not unproven as such, but in the England squad, probably unproven. So I think if John Stones is at his absolute best and leads the defence through the tournament as he is, I think he's going to be the most important player in the squad. Outside of England, the tournament winner for me would be, it's too cliche to say, don't write off the Germans. It is their home tournament. I've said Portugal from the start. Just the players they've got, the way they play at times, obviously. I think they could have a lot of good moments in some knockout games and keep it close. So I've just got a feeling about Portugal, so I'm going to go with them.
That's Tom there. Yeah, thanks for sending that message over. A couple of points I guess I'll pick up on. Interesting your comments about John Stones. I definitely feel like I'm in the minority, and I'm happy to be in the minority, and I'm happy to be wrong on this. But I've been really skeptical about him so far at this tournament. I feel like he looks tired, and like there's a mistake in him. But you know, that's just me, and really, he hasn't put a foot wrong. So your pick for him being kind of a key player if we do go far does make sense. He's absolutely crucial. Also, the Jude Bellingham point. You're not the first person to say, play him alongside Declan Rice in the midfield. And you know what? It does make a lot of sense. I was against it at the start of the tournament because he has had a great season for Real Madrid, playing at 10, like he is for England now. But from reading online from Real Madrid fans, it seems like that 10 is more of a false 9. So is he getting in Harry Kane's space? And is it better to just have that physical presence in the midfield? We know he can play there. He's good enough to play there, and it might free up other positions. But yeah, thank you very much for sending that over. Who have we got next? It's Jake. Okay, so a quick word on Jake before we get into his answers. If anyone is ever in the lovely city of Lichfield, go to Jake's pub, Whip. They do the best pizzas in town. Absolutely spot on craft beer and all that. He's a lovely host. The venue's amazing. We've actually done an Is This England live show there ahead of the last World Cup. But let's hear what Jake has to say now that plug is over.
Right, I'll do this quickly then. Right, so I'm not the most knowledgeable about football, but right, okay. Did I see any positives from the group stage? If not, what's gone wrong? Well, we didn't concede a lot. I suppose that's one positive. We conceded 1 in 3 games. I suppose that's something to look at. Do I see any other positives? Well, I liked when Mainu played. I thought he was brilliant. I liked Palmer when he played. I thought he was fantastic. What are the positives? Well, I think you've struggled to find a lot of positives anyway. I was looking at the breakdown. The knockout stage has changed. I mean, I thought we can go, yeah, well, it has to, doesn't it? We always seem to get like a pretty easy run, and what have we got? Slovakia. Then we've got the easy side of the draw, and we anyway. So, yeah, you have to look at that surely and say we've got a better chance than if we was on the other side playing France or Germany or whatever. So surely you've got to say, but to win it, you've got to win every game, haven't you? So you have to beat the best teams anyway. So it's always like, what? I'm not really interested in how far we can go. I'm interested in winning the tournament. Do you know what I mean? That's not. It's same to me if we make the semis or we go out in the round of 16. If we don't win, we don't win. Like you don't get a trophy for getting to the final. You don't get a trophy for making it to the semi-final. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So it doesn't bother me if we go out in the round of 16 or we lose in the final. Like it's the same. Do you think Man City will like fucking be celebrating when they get to the final of the Champions League? No, they lose, don't they? Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like you don't get points for making it far in the tournament, so that doesn't bother me at all. But yeah, I do think it's changed the mood and how far we can make it. Yeah, certainly. If we do go far, who is going to be the key player? I think you should. Well, Bellingham should be the key player, shouldn't he? Really? I mean, I don't know. He's like probably our best player, and I know he hasn't really performed in those last 2 games, but he's a winner. He's just won the treble or whatever. I'm not sure if did they win the treble. Whatever. He's just won the Champions League, and he's won La Liga, and he's like 20 years old. He's like basically, you know, going to be Real Madrid's captain. He's going to be England's captain. He should be the one to drag us through, even though he hasn't performed. I mean, you can't forget his quality. So you would say probably he will be the key player, but I don't know. Outside of England, who do you want to be on to win the tournament and why? Germany. I don't know. Maybe Germany or again France have got the experience and like I was speaking to a French dude in the pub the other day, and he goes, like, the difference in mentality is that I said, "Oh, so how do you think you've got on? I don't think you've not particularly played particularly well." And he was like, "Well, we don't seem to ever do well in the group stage, but I think we'll probably still win." So we're getting on our backs because, like, we've not played particularly well in the group stage, and we're slagging everyone off. But they just think, well, we're through, and we've probably still got a really good chance of winning. Whereas we're like the opposite. But yeah, maybe France, Germany. I don't know. There's quite a few teams, I suppose. Spain, but I suppose that's the answer.
Well, there you go. Straight to the point. No messing. Thank you, Jake. Couple of points there. Then I think you were talking about kind of winning the tournament being the only way to really see it as a success, which I do understand. But and maybe this is again going back to my Southgate apologist agenda, but I think a semi-final, quarter-final, probably not a quarter given the draw, but a semi-final. I think that would have to be considered a success just in terms of looking back at 2018, 2020, 2022, and now 2024 of being, a semi-final, a final, a quarter-final, and then a semi-final. I mean, that's a bloody good record by any measure. Also, I thought it was interesting how you mentioned your conversation with the French chap, and I have thought that as well. Do the big teams get as pissed off about their country's performance in the group stages, or do they just see it as it's fine, it's just something we've got to get through sort of thing? Because I don't think any of the big teams other than probably Spain have massively impressed. Germany have been really good, obviously, to be fair, so that's another one, but France haven't. Italy are lucky to have qualified for the tournament as a whole, and not massively impressive so far. But thank you, Jake. Really appreciate you sending those answers over. Up next, we have Mitchell. Mitchell, take it away.
Question one: do you see any positives from the group stage? If not, what's gone wrong? Well, firstly, we topped the group, didn't we? So that's got to be a positive. We only conceded one goal, so that's a positive to take from it. What's gone wrong? We just don't have that team, not spirit, but like we don't play as a team as we have done previously. We've got It seems like there's individuals trying to don it. Bellingham wants to take all the shots on, and we just haven't got. We're not clicking as a team. But really, it hasn't gone wrong because we won the group, man. No one else in the group got a win. We got a win and two draws, so we haven't lost a game. We've only conceded one goal, so surely that's positive. Question two: has looking at the breakdown for the knockout stages changed your mood on how far we can go? I'm mixed on this one, both yes and no. Obviously, on paper, it's an easy-ish route to the final. Is that good? Because that cranked the pressure up on England. We're expected to win a lot of these games now. Um, so yeah, and we're not really coping with pressure very well at the moment. So maybe it could be more of a hindrance than a help. And also, just given our recent games, England don't play well against teams that we should be beating. I feel like teams that park the bus and wait for us to come at them, we struggle with. I feel like if we played a Spain or a France or an Italy, I know they're on that side, but they would come at us and that would create spaces behind for us to play and score. So these games, Austria, Turkey, Slovakia, they're not what I want to see as an England fan because we all know their game plan. They're going to park that bus and they're going to say, right, England, come at us. We'll go 0-0 90 minutes. We'll go 0-0 extra time and we'll take our chance on penalties. And I can see that happening. Question three: what would your starting 11 be against Slovakia? My starting 11 would be Pickford, Walker, Stones, Gahey, Trippier. In front of those two, I'd have Bellingham and Rice. In front of those, I'd have Foden with Kane up front. I'd have Gordon on the left and I'd have Saka on the right. That's my 11. The 11 that I think he will play is exactly the same as the last game. but with Mainu instead of Gallagher. And I also expect him to swap Saka for Palmer with the idea of Saka coming on late in the game. What needs to happen against Slovakia to convince you that we can go far? Well, you just want to see them more of what we saw in the second half against Slovenia. I want to see fluidity. I want to see attacking football, going forward, taking chances, less side and backwards passing. I want players breaking the line, give and go, run forward, positive attacking football, take a risk. If you take a risk and it fucks up, no one minds. But you know what I mean? This negative, slow football. No one wants to see it, and it's what Slovakia wants. They want to grind it out all the way, and they want to take us to penalties, or they're going to want to nick a goal and hold on. We need to take it to them, free flowing football, attacking, and just have a go. You know what I mean? Have a go. What? No one's going to cuss them for having a go. And also, I think we would benefit for just getting some balls in the box. I haven't seen enough of that this tournament. I know we like to pass, and move and walk it in. Well, that's good. We do have the ability to do that. But every now and again, especially when you've got a striker like Harry Kane in the box, get it down the line, overlap them fullbacks, get it down the line and get it across the box. That's how we scored our goal. You know what I mean? Walker broke down, it come to Saka, he put it across and Kane tapped it in. Get the ball in the box. Question 5. If we do go far, who is going to be the key player? Well, I think we're spoilt in that respect in terms of, look, key players. We've got Kane, Foden, Bellingham, Palmer. That's just 4 examples. All of those have the ability to be key players. That might be the problem. We've got too many key players trying to be just that and not the team spirit. In answer to the question, I'm going to choose Bellingham because he's been slow for the last 2 games. But if he hits his normal form, then he can win it for us alone. Question 6. Who would your money be on to win and why outside of England? I'd say Spain, probably. Although, seeing how the tournament has come on so far, a lot of the big teams haven't breezed it as we would have expected them to. Most of these top teams have had a shock result. So if I can group all these smaller teams together, Austria, Turkey, Georgia, and say, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these lesser teams win it. I wouldn't, because the passion that you're seeing from these teams, you watch Georgia against Portugal, and the passion and the energy and the grit and determination that they show, that's how you win football games and that's how you win tournaments. So, aside from England, I'm going to say we're going to see a Greece style winner. Brackets Spain, dash Portugal, dash Germany, dash France.
Mitchell there taking the spread betting approach to the winner. Interesting. I nearly fell out my chair when you said Greece were going to win it, but I understand your point. It may be one of the, in inverted commas, lesser teams. I love the emotion and the passion coming through on that. I think that's a very kind of positive way of expressing your support rather than getting upset and angry with the team, which people are entitled to do, of course. But you made the point about just getting the ball in the box, and if I can kind of put words in your mouth, so to speak, and say kind of simplifying the game. I think that's not a bad shout at all. I think Anthony Gordon is very kind of crucial to that if we do choose him, and it will be interesting, as I think we've already mentioned, to see if Kane is still that man in the box that Southgate wants to go with. But definitely agree with you on that point. I also like the Avagu approach. So yeah, thank you very much, Mitchell. Really appreciate you sending that over. Up next, we have Ken Twix. Ken, take it away, my friend.
Hi there, guys. Fellow Is This England pod listener Ken Twix here, coming at you from a wet and windy West Yorkshire, having returned home following a week in Dusseldorf with my wife. It's brilliant over there. It's been an absolutely fantastic tournament to attend in person. The fan zones have been amazing. The supporters of the teams have added colour and even a Scottish have been a very good laugh. Honestly, it's been a wonderful holiday, marred only by the football. So just want to talk a little bit about, how England have done really during this group stage. I think it's time now that the game is a few days ago that we can kind of stop, take stock, and talk about positives and negatives. I do think there have been some minor positives amongst all the doom and gloom. We've won a Euros group abroad for only the second time ever at a Euros, and we had that really positive first half versus Serbia. So we know we can do it. We know what we can do when we get the bit between our teeth. I mean, ultimately, we've won the group without playing well, and that's a sign of a very good team. And I'll add that there's been flashes of potential, particularly from the subs like Gordon, Palmer, and Mainu, which indicate that we've got options beyond that first 11 that started against Serbia and against Denmark. So we can call upon them during this tournament as it goes on, hopefully beyond Sunday. I mean, a draw has opened up in a style of Euro 2020 for us, but I would caution people to not be too enthusiastic based on the fact that we could have to face Italy and then the Netherlands before a potential final. Not to mention Austria and Turkey both playing well, securing more points than we did during the group stage. And I'd hasten to add Switzerland v Italy on Saturday is not a done deal. Switzerland have looked very decent during this tournament so far. I know Jacob Steinberg did an article in The Guardian about controversially resting Jude Bellingham, which would cause people to clutch their pearls. As you said that to them before the start of the tournament, but at post Serbia first half, he's simply not had a good tournament whatsoever. He's possibly run himself into the ground with his amazing season for Real Madrid. So I'm always wary about people saying what their first 11 and tactics would be, because it's obvious like how you think Gareth Southgate is actually going to play his 11. But with that in mind, I would possibly move Foden into the 10 spot, resting Bellingham, giving him a bit of a break, with Palmer, Gordon, and Mainu coming in for the obvious replacements. Also, Steinberg did mention playing Walker at left back and Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back, which I don't think is as ridiculous as people have said. People would initially think, because based on the fact that you'd still have Trent's deliveries opening up the space, which is why he was moving to central field in the first two games. And whilst Walker is obviously not an orthodox left back, his recovery pace in any position is a wonderful insurance policy for England and for Manchester City. So that is certainly something I think we should be considering. If Luke Shaw is ever going to be fit ever again before the eventual heat death of the universe. Against Slovakia, we have a real chance to kind of really turn it on and really impress for the first time this tournament. More incisive and ruthless plays, through the obvious channels. Whoever's at number 10 needs to be making changes. And number 10 there, that's not a politics joke just before the election. No, that is, a football position reference. So whether that's Foden or Bellingham or whoever, needs to be making things happen from there. And the wide players need to be terrorising the markers, really causing problems from the wings. Part of me does believe the changes in personnel and tactics will be implemented against Slovakia. And then we're going to have a Simon from IT in the TV show The Office moment, where the go-kart lands on its wheels and he goes, "What were you worried about?" moment. However, I did say this to myself before Slovenia, so, what do I know about football? And if we're going to go far in this tournament, if we are going to get past Slovakia and whoever we face in quarters and semis and hopefully a final, Harry Kane does need to step up in a big way. It's number 10 and number 9 at the same time thing isn't really working at present, and he's getting pelters for doing one and not the other, like he did against Serbia and then against Denmark. He really needs to sort himself out, really. But he has clicked into gears in the knockouts in the last two tournaments, hasn't he? So, he's hoping for more of the same. Outside of England, I would argue that Spain are the obvious choice to win it so far. The only team to go with a perfect group stage. But there's always a worry about peaking too soon, isn't there? It's hard to work out how good Germany are, because they did beat a poor Scotland and Hungary sides. But potential quarter-final between them and Spain, for me, the winner of that, I think, wins the whole thing. Otherwise, I think it's been a very good tournament, possibly not as good as the start of Euro 2020, in my opinion. The goal average has been way down so far. I've not quite seen as much drama as I wanted, but we have seen some good, some good football just outside of England games. It's hard to ignore the feel-good stories of teams like Austria and Turkey and Georgia, obviously. So I hope you guys listening have enjoyed the tournament so far. I hope the good guys at Isis England have been enjoying it as well. Keep up the great show, guys. Love it a lot. And come on, England.
Thank you, Ken Twix. Firstly, for the message, and within that message, the lovely comments about the show. Do really appreciate it, and I'm glad to hear you had a nice time out in Germany. Kudos to you as well for mentioning The Office. You get a bonus point. There's a thumbs up in the post on its way to you. So, picking out a couple of points from there. You mentioned calling on the subs. I think I've already spoken about that and my kind of harebrained theory that maybe we're keeping some of the best subs in reserve and we'll really see them now. Just speaking honestly, I just don't think we're going to see Jared Bowen come on if we need a goal against Slovakia, or if we go further on. Maybe Eze will prove me wrong on that front, but yeah, it's time for the likes of Mainu and Palmer, isn't it? Also, when you mentioned moving forward in the tournament, yeah, it is an easy side of I'm just disproving my point there. It's not an easy side of the draw in one sense because, like you'd say, Italy are there, Netherlands are there, and then you do have Austria and Turkey who have been really impressive. So there's definitely no there's no guarantees as to how far that we can go, and we do have to turn it on. You also mentioned Luke Shaw. Fingers crossed that he comes back and he's ready to just snap right into form. To be honest, we have seen him do that before for England and for Manchester United, so that gives me some hope. But obviously, as the body ages, injuries maybe last a little bit longer and things like that. I seem to remember he was injured going into Euro 2020 and basically came in for the first or second game and looked like he hadn't missed a beat, so fingers crossed for that. Up next, we have Jamie. Just a word of caution, or a bit of kudos again, maybe. Jamie did go the whole season in FPL without using Erling Haaland, so make of that what you will. He's certainly a man who's not afraid to go against the grain, so to speak. So let's hear from him.
Hey, George. Positives from the group stage. I think our defence was on point. I think the fact that we only conceded one goal in the whole group stage, which was an out of the box shot, I think it shows our defenders are pretty on it at the moment, and it was a great shot that we conceded. So yeah, defence is looking pretty strong. In terms of the knockout stages, I think not many teams have played very well. So if it was a case of England didn't play very well, which we didn't, and then every other group performed great, like all the strong teams performed great, it would be a different story. I don't think many of the big teams performed well other than Germany, really. So I still think we can go pretty far. Starting 11 against Slovakia. I think, as I said, I think the defence is great at the moment. So Walker, Stones, Guehi, Trippier especially is doing pretty great at the moment. So I'd keep the back four. Midfielders, Rice doing brilliant. Jude Bellingham, I know he had a slippy one last game, but again, he's a brilliant player. Foden is very good. I think he's so explosive that he needs to come on in the second half when the opposite team may be feeling a little bit tired. So Foden for me is a second halfer. I'd love to see maybe Eze and Gordon on in the first half. They're both brilliant at winning the ball, winning free kicks, which is maybe what we need to score a set piece. Trippier on the ball maybe. So midfielders, I'd go Rice, Bellingham, Eze, and who else was it? Gordon. And then keep Saka and Kane up front, and maybe switch Saka and Kane out later on for Watkins and another striker, like Tony maybe, give two strikers a chance if there's no goals in the first half. But yeah, that's my starting 11. Walker, Stones, Guehi, Trippier, Rice, Bellingham, Gordon, Eze, Saka and Kane. I think the key thing against Slovakia is to start scoring goals. I think we've all the players have got talent at club level, so we know it's there. We know they can all score goals. Defenders included, Stones, Trippier, Walker all scored goals. midfielders and strikers are great in the Prem and in their other leagues, but I think we just haven't seen that so far, and I think we need to see some goals being scored just to give us a bit of a, can we do this? Can we score goals against the big teams? Because we know they're not going to sit around and not score. So when we get to those big matches, I think we need to be scoring. So Slovakia will be a great team to test it on. I really think key player. It's tricky to choose just one. I think Rice and Bellingham are both going to be very crucial to defend, keep the centre defended, and keep the push on in the midfield as well with Bellingham. I think Rice and Bellingham are both going to be key players. They can both score goals when needed, which is just what we need. I think when the opposite team is covering our strikers, goal from midfield is all we'll need. Outside of England, who would my money be on to win the tournament and why? Now, I didn't watch any of the games, but I had a really good feeling about Austria before we went into the Euros. I think I watched a couple of their games. It was either last Euros or last World Cup, and I really like them. They play very well, and obviously they've come top of their group with France and Netherlands, I think it was. So I think Austria are a good shout. So here's hoping England win, but Austria is kind of the underdog that I think will do well. But Germany did play extremely well, and it's in their home turf. So Austria, Germany, England, those are my three.
Well, I told you he goes against the grain. Some interesting takes there, particularly on individual players. Giving a big up to Kieran Trippier, who's come in for a lot of criticism, certainly from what I've seen anyway. But I do think he has been performing well. He's clearly not at his best and he's playing out of position, but he's made some important kind of tackles and blocks. If you kind of watch the games back, which I haven't, but from memory, he's done at least one. He's such an intelligent defender, and I think maybe we've lost a bit of his attacking prowess and definitely some attacking threat down the left by playing him there. But it does help shore the defence up, and he's an experienced player to play next to Gay here as well, which is probably benefiting him, who, as we've all said, has had a really good tournament. Big shout out for Eze in there, getting a start. Certainly going against my last point that I made previously. Yeah, I'd love to see it, to be honest. I'm all for change at this moment in time, even though it may seem sometimes I kind of err on the side of caution. But yeah, interesting point there. I like the love for Declan Rice that you've given. Obviously, we on the podcast have gushed about Declan Rice over and over and over again. He's an incredible player. Probably had his worst ever game against Denmark, but so crucial to England. And Jamie, I really liked your positive attitude ahead of the Slovakia game. I think, you said they're a good side to test, a fresh approach against. And to be fair, I do agree with that. So let's have a chat to our next caller. It's friend of the show, the man who actually designed our logo, which I still think is brilliant. Really cool graphic work from Akash. Let's hear what you've got to say for yourself. I'm listening.
For me, I do see positives from the group stage. We topped the group. I think that's the best one, because if you look at the other side of the table and the matches which are happening there, it's going to be tough for them, where if we finally decide to play better, we can actually do pretty well. So I think that's definitely a positive. Another is our defence. It's been very strong with Gay coming in to support Stones. It's built confidence at the back. And so those are my positives from the group stage. In terms of the knockout stages, it's looking tasty. I will say that. I think there's some really good fixtures for England. As I said, they just need to perform better. Because if we beat Slovakia, then it's either going to be Italy or Switzerland. And I like our chances of those fixtures. Netherlands is a different story. Cody Gakpo has been on fire. So let's just see if we can beat Slovakia first and then worry about the other teams later on. Now, my starting 11 against Slovakia is it's not going to happen. I know it. But I would have Pickford in goal, Walker on the left, Gay and Stones in centre-back, and Trent at right-back. Rice and Mainu in the middle, followed by Gordon left, Foden in the middle, Saka on the right. And I would like to see Watkins up front, but it's going to be Kane. So hopefully if Foden's behind him, it might push Kane up front more. And so he's not playing in the middle anymore. I think we need to take Bellingham out. I think he'll be good off the bench. Give Foden a chance in the middle. And let Gordon run wild on the left. In terms of what needs to happen against Slovakia to convince, we can go far, is we need to be more daring, a bit more confident, because we have the players. And I think when you put them in the right position, it will just naturally happen. If we do go far, it's the key player is going to be Southgate at the end of the day. He needs to figure out his strongest team and how to get these players performing well. That will determine how far we progress in this tournament. For me personally, it's going to be out of Spain or France that win the Euros this year. They both got great teams, but the Spanish side are playing some really good football, and they've got some great young players that have come through at the right time for them. So I think Spain are going to win the Euros this year.
Thank you for that, Akash. First mention of Trent, I think, on this episode there. Yeah, people say that the midfield experiment has failed. Maybe it has, but it'll be interesting to see what role he can play in the tournament going forward. You also mentioned, I think, taking Bellingham and Kane out, so some big calls there. And again, we've got such a good squad on paper and with form considered that I wouldn't be against some crazy decisions or seemingly big choices being made. But it'll be interesting to see again, if that does happen. I thought it was interesting as well that your key player for the tournament is Southgate. Not a player, but I will let you off. But it's a very good way of looking at things, I definitely think, because he holds the power, doesn't he? All these conversations that people have, he should do this, he should do that, we should be playing like this, we should be playing like that. He's the man who can put the 11 names on the piece of paper and send it over to UEFA and put that team out. He's also the one responsible for kind of geeing them up and getting them motivated. Aside from obviously the fact that they are professionals and should be able to motivate themselves, especially with an opportunity like this to go far in the tournament. Thank you very much for that, Cash. Right then, last but not least, we have Joe. Joe, for the last time today, I'm listening.
I think the positives to take from the group stage would be the fact that coming into the tournament, if you were to look at the England side and looked for any kind of weakness, you'd be looking at that left side of defence. Big hole where kind of Ben Chilwell, Luke Shaw, not there, no natural sided left defender. Also the hole that Harry Maguire kind of left. Hayward, Mark Gay stepped up. But the way the back four has performed, 2 clean sheets out of 3 games, only conceding 1 goal. I think the stats saying that only Spain were kind of better than that in the group stages. It was a real positive to take from what wasn't a great group stage kind of performance. I think looking at the group stage, at the knockout stages now, we've definitely obviously looked out in terms of the bottom half of the draw with the teams that are in and around us. I think there's still some definite kind of strength in some of those teams. Maybe not the names that you'd look for, the Frances, the Germanys, but teams like Austria performing really, really well in the group stages. And I just think as well, England are really, really vulnerable to these lesser teams. We haven't performed well so far in the group stages against these kind of teams, Denmark, Slovenia. We just didn't look great. So playing against teams like Slovakia, if we end up against Italy or Switzerland, obviously Italy not as strong as they have been in the past. But there's no doubt that we're potentially there's a slip up there against a very kind of mediocre team, against a team that you would expect England to beat. We could definitely trip up against those. So can we go further? Yes, I think definitely. We've improved our chances by winning the group and getting into that bottom half of the draw. But I do think that we're still vulnerable to lose at any point at the moment. I don't think there's a team in that bottom half of the draw that couldn't beat us on their day. So still not as positive as we probably should be about those knockout stages. I think starting 11 for the Slovakia game. I think Luke Shaw at left back. I know he's been talked about back in training. I'm not. I mean, I'd like to see him back in, but I'm not sure he'll make it in terms of fitness. If he's only just recovering, I doubt he'll be risked. But I think the rest of the back four kind of picks itself. I've seen a few little debates amongst pundits trying to chuck Trent Alexander-Arnold in at right back instead of Kyle Walker, which I don't really understand. I think Kyle Walker's one of the best right backs for England that we've ever had. He plays right back for best team in Europe in terms of Man City. So putting Alexander Arnold in when he's been criticised for his defending and hasn't performed at this tournament, when we've put him in, I think he's crazy. I actually think Phil Foden going out of the squad for a short period of time might have actually done Southgate a bit of a favour. I think he's been trying to figure out a way to play Foden and Bellingham in the same team, which is probably possible, but he hasn't found a system or a way or a set of instructions that actually works. So I think it almost gives him an excuse to drop him. I think that Foden playing in off the left has suited him at all. It's left the side really unbalanced because he keeps drifting in. So I actually would quite like to see him play a more natural left-sided winger like Anthony Gordon. He came on and tried to make a really positive impact in the last game. And I think that Foden kind of leaving the squad almost gives him the excuse to do that. So I'd like to see him do that. I know other England fans obviously looking at Cole Palmer on the right and the way he came on and had an impact again in the last game. But I don't think he will. I think he'll still stick with Saka and Kane as the front three. And then I think the last change he'll obviously make, I think it'll probably be Kobe Mainoo comes in alongside Declan Rice. So you almost have a midfield of Rice, Mainoo and Bellingham almost in that very natural 10 position then. And then what I'd like to see is Gordon, Saka and Kane as the front three. But how likely that is, I'm not sure. I think in order to convince people against Slovakia, how far can we go? I think just a more polished performance. I think even just a 1-0 win, proper tournament kind of play, get us through the game, get the result, but looking more polished in our performance, controlling the game properly, not looking vulnerable against a bang average side is definitely something that I think most fans will be looking for against Slovakia on Sunday. If we do go far, key player, I actually think is going to be Pickford. We've seen that, we're not scoring a great amount of goals. That could change, if he gets the right formula in the front four, kind of gets them working. But I actually think we'll probably carry on some of the tournaments in the same sort of vein, some close games against some quite bang average teams who maybe sit back, make it really difficult for us. I can see a couple of these games going to penalties, as we've seen in previous tournaments again. And I think Pickford's got a big part to play in it. I think he's capable. I think he's shown it in the past. So, I'd be pinning some hopes on Pickford if we do go far. I think he'll be really key for us. Apart from England, struggling really to pick a team that's really shone. I think Spain have been the standout performers of the tournament so far. Obviously, 3 from 3 in the group stages and looking really good. I was really surprised. I watched the Portugal-Georgia game the other day, and the Portuguese side, I know they've made, I think it's about 8 changes, and there was still, a really, really strong side that they put out. But I think Portugal have got a part to play in the latter parts of the tournament. I think they've got Slovenia in the next round, which is probably the easiest draw in the top half of the knockout stages. And then they'll probably play France or Belgium in the next round. So that'll be a big test for them. But I haven't been overly convinced by France. I don't think Mbappe is really playing at his best. Belgium, again, when it comes to kind of playing the bigger teams, haven't really performed. Germany, although they made a really good start against Scotland, they haven't really then kind of pushed on and done too much else after that. So I think the teams that have actually probably shone and done something that has stood out have been some of the lesser named kind of teams. I think obviously Austria, some of their performances in the group stages have been really positive and they're showing good signs. But other than that, I think my pick at the moment would probably be Spain. from that tougher top half of the draw. So if it's not England, I think they're probably going to be favourites towards the end.
Thank you very much, Joe. Some interesting points, of course, as everyone has contributed with some interesting points. As opposed to Cash, who put Trent in the side, you kind of put an argument against that there. Obviously, on this show, we're big Kyle Walker fans as well, so yeah, I could see him starting. I think obviously the most hot take you put out there would have been Pickford being the key player. But, there is a lot of truth in that, really. We've always looked so much better when he's at his best, and I don't think he has in terms of playing out from the back. It's weird to say, really, but I think the whole team have been struggling with the passing, and if he can set the tempo for that, that's brilliant. Obviously, he's made big saves in the past for us as well, and like you said, they're going to be close games, and he needs to pull out big saves. Well, he may need to pull out big saves to keep us in some tight knockout situations. And of course, if penalties happens, then he's going to be a really, really key player in that. So we've reached the end of the line on this special episode of Is This England? It's been honestly really, really cool to listen to people sending us their thoughts and getting lots of different voices on the show. Definitely something we'd like to do again, dependent obviously on how far England go in this tournament. I guess it's just left to me to have the final say, the final word. All I will say is let's be positive. Let's cross everything for a really good game and a really good performance. It's 5 o'clock on Sunday. That's perfect. Hopefully set us up for a lovely week and we can look forward to a quarter final the following Saturday. Fingers crossed Nick will be back by then. I think he comes back from Glastonbury just after the Slovakia game. So yeah, if you're watching Glastonbury coverage over the weekend and you see a man looking lost and forlorn in the crowd while it's kind of that Sunday afternoon slot, that'll be him. But I'm sure you join me in wishing him an excellent and well-deserved break. Yeah, come on, England. We really need this now. Let's get this summer properly started. Let's smash Slovakia. Yeah, you heard me. Smash, and let's, take it from there. Let's be reasonable after that for a bit until we get hyped up again. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And, of course, thank you to everybody who took part.